As you all know, we're going to be talking about data science skills and careers in this panel session. Now, one thing that has occurred to us all in our discussions prior to this session is that are we really talking about data science, or are we talking about kind of data analysis in general? And I think the broad consensus is that data science is part of what we want to talk about, but we want to talk about a broader landscape here. We hear so much about a skills shortage, about sky-high contractor rates, sky-high salaries, very difficult to get the right, to get people with the credentials that you need as an employer. So this panel debate is going to focus on what employers are looking for and what they can do to secure the best data talent, and hopefully give a bit of careers advice for anyone in this audience that's looking to make a move. So I'm going to start off by asking all our panelists just to introduce themselves, tell them your name and job title and kind of your company and what you do. So Jez, if you want to start there.
So I'm Jez Clark, co-founder of Eden Smith. Been in the staffing and talent industry for just shy of 20 years, across all technologies and telecommunications, building talent pools across Europe in very niche skill sets and taking them to market.
Thanks, Jez. Hi, good evening everyone, or good afternoon everyone. My name's Thomas Breach. I'm Talent Acquisition Manager for Elsevier. I oversee the product and technology acquisition of people across the UK, as well as some operations in Europe as well.
Good afternoon, I'm Kim Nilsson. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Pivigo. We are about 3.5-year-old startup based here in London, data science training provider and a data science marketplace.
Hi, I'm Andy Meikle, Chief People Officer at Just Giving. I concern myself with all things people, so not entirely recruitment focused, but also culture, etc., etc.
Fantastic, that's great, guys. So I'm going to start off by, let's talk a little bit about demand and what are the targets of that demand. Jez, like in terms of the clients that you're working with, what are they coming to you and saying they desperately need, and how much do they understand what they need in the first place?
It's a really good question. I think since we founded the business, there's been a lot of really interesting conversations around the opportunities available. And one of the words I would say actually from the client perspective is unrealistic of what's actually available to them. But there's a huge demand for data scientists and across all industries, we would say actually. So for those businesses that have already moved into and implemented data analytics into their company, they've kind of been working on that probably for the last 2 or 3 years. And therefore, they probably would have already trained some of the internal people into that. And of course, now those trying to find it, there's a massive shortage of that skill set. They're coming unstuck, and they need educating, really, on how they're actually going to find that talent. So a massive demand for data science and also data engineering, visualization side, and on the analysis side as well. So there's a lot of transferable skills that are already in-house, but that's currently where we're seeing the demand.
Fantastic. I'd like to throw open the question sort of broadly across the panelists, because you all have different recruitment needs or are speaking to companies about their skills needs. So maybe we can just broadly discuss that from the context of your own companies.
So I joined Elsevier roughly about a year ago, and it wasn't my first choice of organisation to go for, because I saw them as being they're a world leader in publishing, but it's publishing books and journals and science, technology, medicine markets, and it didn't seem that sort of cutting edge. And the reason I joined is that the organisation is going through such a significant digital transformation that it's basically rebuilding its entire technology organisation, not from the ground up, but really building on what they've already got in place. And the biggest challenge they've got is the numbers they're trying to hire. I mean, we'll probably end the year in about 280 new hires into the organisation across the globe, with the majority of that here in the UK. And coming into the new year, we've got about another 220 people that we're looking to identify to the organisation. And that gives us a big challenge because we've got a significant number of roles to fill, particularly in very hot places like London, where there's a skills, well, there's not a lack of skills because they're here, but it's the demand for them, but also the ability to attract and also get the right level of quality through our technical evaluation. So our challenge is first of all, brand awareness, disrupting people's perceptions of who we are as an organization, but also being able to foster the talent that we bring in at early stages, in particular around graduates as well, because we're not going to find the people who are the finished product anymore. We as an organization need to be more proactive, and we are being more proactive, but we're not there yet to be able to sort of develop individuals within the business. So for us, we've got a big challenge because we've got some big numbers to hit. However, it's making sure that we've got the right processes in place to not only develop talent internally, but also to train. And I think that's one of the areas that, I can see that we would be more successful in basically getting the right people that we need.
Fabulous. And that whole idea of training, Kim, is a subject close to your own heart, I'm sure. How are you, as an organisation, helping companies with their kind of training needs?
Well, I would like to take the conversation back to the organizations in some sense, because in the last 3.5 years, we must have spoken to over 500 organizations about their data needs. And most of them are in the stage where they're saying, yes, we need to do something with data, but we really don't know what, and we don't know what skills we need for it. And then they typically go out and look for one person, that magic data science unicorn that's going to solve all their problems in one go. And then they say, we can't find them. There are no data scientists out there. But the problem is, of course, that they're looking for one person that has all the possible skills. And then tying into that, I also work with Tech UK, and we recently published a report looking into specifically, is there a skills gap? And what we looked at was everyone is looking for a data scientist. But actually, if you break it down, that goes into 8 different roles. That is data scientist, but it's also data analyst, it's data engineer, it's a visualization expert, it's a business analyst, etc. And if you really look into where are the skills gaps in those 8 roles, actually, data scientist only comes in as the 3rd after data analyst and data engineer. So first thing is for organizations to realize, don't go after that one unicorn that you can't find or is going to be way too expensive for your organization, but build a team. A team with mixed skills, bringing in junior people as well. And then we realized that actually certain of those groups are harder to find than others. But that's perhaps another question, yeah.
I realise that we're quite lucky at Just Giving, I think, when I hear these things. We're a small organisation, 140 people, and we found a unicorn. Mike Bigembe, I don't know if you saw him here about an hour and a half ago. We have the situation where data science is represented on our leadership team. We hired fairly early, and I think Mike's been with the organisation 6 years ago, and the team was built around him. Now, what that gives us is the opportunity when we meet people to say, well, we're definitely not the finished product, but this is what we have. This is how committed we are to data as an organization. And I think from a skills point of view, it enables us a bit we have a degree of control of knowing where our gaps are. And because we are fairly mature, I guess, relatively, our hiring has been successful, although that doesn't stop when someone chooses to leave, you knowing that there's probably going to be a 6-month gap between someone leaving, you working out what it is you need, you finding them, you hiring them. But I think that we're in a fairly good place, but I absolutely believe that putting someone on the leadership team or having data committed to and represented has been a game changer for us, because you don't have to, the conversations that you're referring to, so I'm sure you talk to organizations where it's, well, what do you want data to do? Even at our very evolved stage, there's still challenges within the leadership team of unrealistic expectations of, well, can you just find 10 of these people and can they just do this within a couple of weeks? And it's a massive education piece, and I think we're only at the beginning of it.
Fantastic. I mean, I'll stick with you at the moment, Andy, because I want to take the conversation on just to look at kind of tactics, methods and tactics that can be deployed for grabbing the best talent there. And I expect, but don't know for certain, Just Giving has a fairly kind of strong employer brand amongst people who are interested in using their skills, in support of charity, that sort of thing. But What are the other tricks you've got up your
Well, no,
sleeve?
it's that, I mean, we have an easy story to tell, and
Yeah.
recruitment is all about storytelling, whether you're applying for a job or whether you're trying to attract someone. We are a mission-driven organisation which attracts a certain type of people, and we're a mission-driven organisation that is completely committed to data science. So the combination of those two things, I think, makes us an attractive proposition. And I don't think I'll be able to answer how it would be if it was more difficult than that, because at the moment we've got it set up quite well. So we're able to attract people that are interested in making a difference and are interested in working on cutting edge stuff.
Sure. And Kim, in your experience, what are the kind of the best tactics that companies can use to grab these people?
It's all about showing your dedication to becoming a data-driven organization. I think there's so we work mainly with PhDs and analytical graduates who want to become data scientists. And many of them are motivated by just solving interesting problems. And that means that as an organization, you have to show two things. You have to show that you have interesting problems to solve and that you have the data to do that, to solve those problems. No one wants to go in and just shuffle around data in SQL databases or God forbid, work with Excel sheets. They want real data to dig their teeth into and with real interesting problems to solve. And then the second one is to show the dedication as an organization towards it. It's not that you're going to be squirreled away into a little corner office somewhere, a broom closet somewhere, and no one cares about what you do. These people, they want to make a difference for the organizations they go into. So those things are important, I think. Show that you have interesting problems, and then show that you appreciate the work that these people do and appreciate their initiative as well in coming up with new solutions to problems.
It just occurred to me when you're speaking, and I don't want to drag us too far off topic, but one thing that you're saying is this, showing this appreciation. I guess there's nothing more kind of devastating to a data scientist to solve a problem and get an answer in a brilliant way than for it not to be actioned or not to be part of a company's strategy. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these people, as I said, are really motivated by making a difference, being appreciated, and solving hard problems. Many of them are not that motivated by money, surprisingly enough. They really want to feel like they're doing something that interests them and that makes a difference. And so showing that appreciation, and therefore it could be in other ways than money as well. It could be in, well, let's throw a hackathon on work hours, for example, and let them play with the data on working hours and show that we appreciate their sense of initiative and problem solving.
Brilliant, thank you. Okie doke. So, Thomas, have you got any tips or tricks?
Well, I suppose more from a process standpoint. I mean, it's all well and good promoting an organisation, telling the right story, and I echo all the points around you've got to have something compelling that the individual wants to be involved with and the problems they're going to be solving. But as an organisation, I think you also need to be aware, and I actually question the point around motivated by money, in the fact that this market is at a sort of more senior to lead level. It's a highly competitive marketplace out there, and our biggest competitor at the moment, we're against the Googles, the Amazons, and the Facebooks of the world when we're looking around machine learning and data science and NLP. And so, these are organizations with a lot of financial clout. And so, although we can have an incredibly compelling story around the creation of a global collaboration platform for scientific research, which is ultimately going to save and develop amazing things, having the right benchmarking for compensation, I think, is really important before you go to market. But also, once you get those individuals in, it's having everyone involved, all their peers, and having a lot of engagement with the people who they're going to be working with, because it's the individuals they're working with as well which have to be key to the process to try and ensure that you're going to get the right people, and also they're going to find the right place to work as well. So that better sense of the environment they're with, I think that's really very important.
Jez, presumably your advice would be to hire a really good recruitment consultant to help you attract the best talent. But like on a personal note, do you have clients that come to you with positions and you think, great, that's going to be really easy to fill, and then others where you go,
Not in data analytics.
No?
No, absolutely not. One thing I will say actually is it's quite refreshing to hear Thomas's view on what Elsevier are doing to address the issue of the talent shortfall that's out there at the moment. I think that's really, really good. And what they're doing about that is they're using multiple different ways of actually approaching the market. They're making sure that their brand representation is correct. They're trying to make themselves attractive. And that is what more businesses should be doing right now. Just Given obviously did that some time ago, and Kim and their business is working very, very hard. What's interesting is that the messages to market and the amount that are required to re-educate businesses that are actually recruiting, and also for people that are looking for opportunity, that's a huge job. And that's where, if you look at a recruitment company, anybody that deals in the talent industry, we're information brokers. We need to get very close to these guys to understand exactly what they did, how they did it, what worked, what didn't work, what's available, what's not available, and then try and marry that together. And that's the engagement in data analytics and talking to those people that are either looking for opportunity or they're seeking people with skills is different to what it's been before. Having been in this industry for quite a long while now, you get to, there's a culture of way that recruitment companies work and they approach the market. And what we know is that the people that work in data analytics are different. They're slightly different, and they need to be approached differently. And Kim's actually spot on. Data scientists, they need to be attracted. The work needs to be interesting. And for any kind of business that thinks, oh, okay, all of a sudden we're going to hire some data scientists, they've got no idea what's going to be attractive to those people. So they're going to come across that as a stumbling block immediately. And these are the gaps that we're trying to bridge as a staffing business in this particular market.
Fantastic, that's great. Some interesting perspectives there. I want to move on to the thorny subject of Brexit. I don't intend for us to get bogged down in any political quagmire here, God forbid it's Friday. But I am interested to know your perspectives on whether Brexit is a good or bad thing for the industry, and with specific reference, of course, to importing the skills that companies need.
So, from our perspective, and certainly in my opinion, is that it's coming. It's something we need to deal with, and therefore, what we need to do immediately and as quickly as possible is understand the impact of it. How we can get around that. I'm already thinking at the moment, having done a lot of European recruitment, building talent pools, it's more about time. It's mobilisation of people across country, etc. Are there going to be these restrictions that actually prevent people being able to move very quickly to address the needs of programs and projects that need to be delivered? That's what I'm saying. So if we're getting customers who have expectations to deliver a project over the course of a 12-month cycle, but they're not really thinking about the resource required to do that, that's actually going to mean that it's going to take 2 or 3 months to get them across or over, because they're clearly not in the UK. If they're not in the UK, that's where there's going to be an issue. And I think, again, we need to make sure people are aware of what that's going to be as quickly as possible, and that's what we're trying to help with.
Fantastic.
I wish I had the answer.
Don't we all?
If I'm to focus on talent acquisition, I think it's going to make it challenging. If we look at the current ability to move across markets and to hire from the EU, it's very easy. Once we go to a point where that freedom of movement is going to be restricted and individuals are going to be able to or have to apply for roles on a point-based scheme, it's going to be more expensive because they're going to be ultimately on a tier 2 visa potentially, which costs the organisation, let's say it's for 3 years, it's £3,500. And then for every preceding year, the organisations are going to have to invest another £1,000 to actually remain that individual within the organisation. That in itself is going to put additional costs to identify people from the international market, which we assume will be the international market. There is a focus now on saying, right, well, if you are paying this money for these visas, that money is going to be put in a centralised pot, which is going to hopefully drive apprenticeships and drive people to be developed further into the particular spaces we're trying to hire to. But how successful that will be is, time will tell. Obviously, there's a big drive at the moment to build out apprenticeship schemes. My worry is that my experience so far, it's already putting off individuals to consider UK as a location. I've already had people withdraw from processes, and that's, we're at the early stages. So my own thoughts is that it will impact our ability to attract the right people. I think it will stop people considering the UK as a place for startup, and I don't see it as being a good thing, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Kim.
Oh, Brexit will be great for Berlin, for Barcelona, for Paris. I think there's no doubt that if we have a hard Brexit, which after tomorrow might seem a bit less likely, fortunately, if we have a hard Brexit, this industry is going to die. Honestly, especially in the startup industry here in London, I would say somewhere between 60 and 80% of the people who work in this industry come from Europe. And they've come here because this is honestly right now the best place to start a data startup, to start any tech startup. London is fantastic for that. But they've come here because it's easy. And if for some reason, indeed, they were to put a visa restriction on that, it would just kill the industry. And indeed, we also have heard a lot of cases of people who are now really hesitant about taking a job here. I have had British people start up in Berlin because they realized that London is not the place right now to start up in. And so it would be a disaster. There's no milder way of putting that. But also because of that, I can't see it happening. I really can't, and maybe I'm being naive, and maybe I'm being just too hopeful, but I just can't see it happening. And at least we have to have access to talent from Europe, or we're in big trouble.
When you say you don't see it happening, you mean specifically a hard Brexit?
Yeah. Because if Theresa May did that, she would kill a large industry, and an industry that is so important for the UK.
Fantastic, thank you, Kim. Wonderful, Andy.
Yeah, I think it's terrible. I think it might be a hard Brexit. I think we might have just reduced our talent pool by about 90%. I think if I'm choosing to start up a company, I'm not doing it in London. These are my fears, and I hope I'm wrong. Really hope I'm wrong. But 50% of our tech and data science team are non-UK. We want access to that talent. There isn't enough talent to go around as it is, and we're looking to reduce it by how much?
Yeah.
I think it's a bad idea, and I think Istanbul, Tel Aviv, Stockholm, Berlin will be the places that everyone's going to end up moving to. I know that's a real doom-monger view, but that's my view. So.
Fair enough. Given that it's Friday, then we're nearly at the end of the conference, I'd like to finish things on a more positive note, and I'm guessing that there will be people in the audience, and you will get a chance to pose some questions in a moment, but I would like to hear from the panelists any advice that they might have to offer attendees here today who might be considering kind of their next step in data, considering a career move. What should they be doing? What should they be looking out for?
Well, my view always when it comes to recruitment is you should approach the companies that you're interested in and tell them what you can do. It really is as simple as that. Mm-hmm. Not what you've got, but what you can do. And start a conversation with people that you're interested in. So if there's 4 or 5 people that you'd like to work with, tell them that you buy them a coffee and just go meet them. I mean, it's the same as it is for every other, as far as I'm concerned, same as it is for every other area. But I think find the companies that are doing something that you're truly passionate about and you can get stuck into and make friends with them. That's the starting point.
So me coming maybe from the more junior angle, so anyone in the audience who are perhaps doing a degree course or something, or are looking to become a junior data scientist, I think there's three components to becoming a data scientist. Number one, which is probably the easiest, is skills. Obviously, you need to make sure you have the technical skills that the job that you're after requires. I'm sure you've all seen the Venn diagram of programming skills, maths, and domain expertise. Most of that you can very easily get nowadays from free online courses, from tutorials, from just going to meetups and learning about what's happening. So that's easy, and that's number one. Number two is experience, which ties in with the domain expertise. And I always recommend for anyone who's interested in becoming a data scientist, try to do something on your own. Try to do a project on your own. And that's easy nowadays. Again, you can go to Kaggle and you can download a challenge there and you can solve it on your own. Or even come up with your own challenge. Think of a question to ask, find the data online, lots of online data nowadays, free data, and solve it and work it out and present it on a website or something you can present to a potential employer and show your skills. And then the third thing, the final piece of that puzzle, is networking. And since you're here, you're probably based in London, again, the best place in the world to network for this. You can go to a meetup or an event like this every night of the week, meet people who are in the industry, meet recruiters, meet employers, talk to them, find out what they're after, and then suggest that you might be available. Most of the jobs are actually placed very informally nowadays and not by applying via a website, for example. So networking is very important. And those are the three key things that you need if you are a younger person wanting to become a data scientist.
I would always encourage you to apply to the Elsevier website if you're looking for a science role. But to the point, it's a social community, and we have so many tools to be able to interact with the potential hiring managers, with the teams. You can connect with these people so easily. Be proactive. I mean, this has been a great event. I met some very enthusiastic individuals who want to find out about who we are, what we do, what their skills are, and even if they haven't got the right ability, it's showing that curiosity and want to learn and to do more. So I think, be proactive, and I think there's some great events that run. I think there's Silicon Milk Roundabout coming up. Just wander around there. You've got all the tech companies under one roof. You know, you can meet these people, explore what the opportunities are. But yeah, I think just have the right attitude and go find the people, or apply.
Jez, what are you telling candidates that you're speaking to?
I totally agree with everything that these guys are saying. You know, there's multiple ways that you can actually find opportunity, and you know, it's a people business. People buying people all the time. That's what it's about. So it's your brand representation which you're dealing with, and you should seek advice as well. You know, the very fact that everybody's here is the first step. I agree with Andy totally about contacting. You know, having to think about who you want to work for, contacting those businesses directly, trying to follow them up, trying to meet them for a coffee, and going down that route really of just basically getting some advice from other recruiters as well as applying directly, but get some advice from recruiters about how you should position yourself before you make those applications. What can you do to improve your profile? You know, your external, your CV is a picture of yourself, your LinkedIn profile is a picture of yourself. You know, the market is pretty much segmented. Learn about the market, learn about the technology, and go and do something proactive that will actually give you a stepping stone to a proper conversation that you can have with a potential employer. And if you're worried or nervous about doing that or going into a recruitment process with an employer, come and talk to a business like Eden Smith or another recruitment company that actually could give you some solid advice to say, you know, this is what you really should be doing to actually try and make yourself as most attractive as possible.
Fantastic, that's great. Thank you so much. I'd like to give the audience a chance. Gentleman here, you had a question for the panelists? Wonderful. We've got about 5 minutes, so I'm hoping to take 2 or 3 questions just to say.
Yeah, question for all panelists. You said there are technical skills required as a prerequisite to enter into a data science field. But what are the technical skills you are expecting? So when you see there are data science tools like R, Python, Scala, and even SAS is there. So do you need, everything needs to be known before entering into the field, or what kind of tools that really help us to enter into the data science field?
Okay. So if you're really starting, no, you don't have to be an expert in everything. Of course not. That's not going to happen with anyone. What I recommend is, so the two main programming languages is Python and R. And you should have some knowledge of both of them. And I recommend to become really strong in at least one of them. And with really strong, I mean having worked with that language for, say, at least 1,000 hours of actually working with it and feeling really comfortable with it. Again, you don't have to be a software engineer, you don't have to be an expert, but feel very comfortable with it. So those are the two main ones. You have to be quite strong on something SQL, something database related, because frankly, any job you go into will need that. And then all of the other ones, you should have an understanding of what it is, what you use it for, maybe having done a couple of tutorials in them just to have a very rough idea. That's the sort of advice that I tend to give to young data scientists on programming languages.
And one another point you added during your conversation is like there are people who is coming from the background of PhDs or MSc graduates. So those are all being given the training for entering into the data science field. So people like me are into software background for almost 8 to 10 years. So now entering the data science field. So what is the advice you will be giving for those people who are trying to enter into a data science field from the software background?
It can be really hard. So we worked with quite a few people who have either had a software role or maybe a finance role, something that is very related to data science, but not exactly data science. And one problem is that you can get pegged. So companies see, oh, you've worked as a software engineer before, well, we'll put you in as a software engineer. And it can be really hard to then say, no, I want a data science job and I can do it. And again, it comes back to the sort of advice I just gave before. Do projects to show that you have the skills, whether it's Kaggle Challenge, whether it's your own project. There are, of course, programs like the one we run called S2DS, which is boot camps trying to help you, again, make that career transition. So do some kind of project, maybe even an internship if you can get it, just to get your hands on data and prove that you can do it. And then it's just the networking piece and going out and talking to companies and saying, I am a data scientist. Give me a chance, look what I've done before, and just sort of keep banging on that door. And don't accept another software job, because then you'll be stuck forever. But just fight that prejudice.
I'm going to have to stop there, I'm afraid, because I've had a fairly strict signal that I'm to wind up. But I'd like, please join me in showing your appreciation for our fabulous panel today. Thank you very much for your time.